cages rattled, a fear of being left behind. We turn to run towards the sun, forgotten places. Still we mark off these dates from the calendar. No second thoughts. I keep me in this prison, in secrecy. I cannot let you in. I've found safety. You'll never know how much I value these days.
It's the Lyrical Wax.
Those were the lyrics of Nick Bloom, singer, songwriter, guitarist, all-around good guy, and more so frontman for the band, the Silencio. My name's PurpleZain, and this is the Lyrical Wax podcast. As PurpleZain, I'm a musician, a producer, but as a normal human being, I am Zane Constantine, psychologist for chillpsychology based out of Tweed Heads, just south of the Gold Coast. I started this podcast so I could interview singers and songwriters about their lyrics and have a little exploration to get a gist of where they were at, what was going on for them, and the relationships about the lyrics they wrote. The Lyrical Wax podcast with the Silencio. Let's go. All righty. Nick, how's it going, my good friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Really good. Had a pretty productive day. Had a productive day getting ready for this podcast today with yourself, lead singer, and I'm assuming lead lyricist of the Silencio.
Lead singer, rhythm guitarist. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go through a few of your lyrics today, as that's the whole point of the Lyrical Wax podcast. You've sent a few to me to go over and have a discussion with you about, but they've all been, the ones you sent have all been written by yourself?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So before we get going with like the lyrics and the songs and everything, it's always helpful to just have a little bit of a conversation about who I'm talking to, a little bit about their history and their background, because it can often put things in context a little bit. So yourself, Nick, you grew up, you're Gold Coast born and bred, or whereabouts did you grow up? And a little bit, mum, dad, brothers, sisters, all that sort of stuff?
Yes, I was born in Melbourne. I've got a younger sister who is 3 years younger than me. When she was born, the family relocated to the Gold Coast. So, yeah, pretty much I say I'm a Gold Coast born and bred, but, yeah, technically not. But we go visit Melbourne every year as a family to go through the rest of the relatives and all that jazz. So, yeah.
There's a lot of us Gold Coasters from down south. My dad was born and raised in Melbourne. I wasn't, but, yeah, there's a lot of us Southerners that call the Gold Coast home now from different generations. So, totally normal, actually. I think there's probably more of us like that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, grew up, you sort of like pretty young when you moved up from Melbourne, still in primary school, high school?
Yeah, I was only like 4 years old, maybe.
Okay.
So, super little.
Yeah, still in kindergarten.
So all my schooling was on the Gold Coast, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, in kindergarten, yeah. My sister's kid now goes to daycare where I went to kindergarten.
Oh, okay. That's kind of, what's that? The sands of time kind of thing. So with the music side of thing then, Nick, a little bit of history about that. You're a singer, songwriter, guitarist. You've been in a couple of different bands. You could touch on that a little bit. But when did you sort of start taking an interest in music, taking an interest in writing lyrics and all that sort of thing?
I think it was something that I always kind of had, like when I was even little, like in primary school, I would always sort of fiddle around with writing stuff. But it really kind of took a hold when I was maybe 11 or 12 when I found my dad's guitar and I kind of figured out that you could, write songs, not just, like poetry. And so that it kind of started there really. And it was just through a love of like the rock bands at the time, always admiring the front men of those bands and wanting to grow up to be like that,
Okay, so your dad was a musician, was he in bands? He just played a bit of guitar and had been laying around the house?
Yeah, Dad played in a band when he was younger and had guitars laying around. He was in a band that was called Dark Image, and they changed their name to Love.
Love.
Which I always thought was funny. Yeah.
They went from Dark Image. I mean, are we talking like the sort of 70s here, or so pretty like like
like late 70s, early 80s, yeah.
Okay, so a little bit of Black Sabbath side metal.
Yeah, the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, well, Dio was in a band called Rainbow, so I suppose you've been in a band called Love, Okay, cool.
True.
It's not like
it was a big Beatles thing,
Oh, Beatles thing, yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's a bit of a, we take for granted all the technology and all the recording we have at our fingertips. But you got any old recordings, from your old man back in the days? Anything survived? And maybe some old press photos or something like that.
There are some cassettes. And there are some photos. Yep. Yeah, I've seen those before. There's actually a video floating around somewhere where it's myself when I was like, I don't know, maybe 2, up on the stage grabbing at the microphone stand while Dad was playing. So that's kind of cool.
Okay, cool. Well, this admittedly is a podcast about yourself and the Silencio, not so much your dad, but it is very interesting. If you've got to have a little bit of psychology involved in this podcast, you can't ignore people's parents. It's the cornerstone of a lot of psychology, talking about people's parents. Bit cliche, but a little bit true. But we're looking at it in a positive way. So you always had a bit of a way for lyrics and songwriting and stuff. You said you started about 11 or 12. Speaking about the past, are there any little lyric books from like grade 5 that you got laying around still that you want to pull out and recite a couple of lines from?
No, I actually threw everything away. A few years ago now. I had a backpack that was just full of old notebooks, and I just got rid of it all. I felt like hanging on to it wasn't doing me any good to move forward, because I would always, like here and there, I'd just dig through them and pull stuff out that I wrote years ago and try and revitalize it, and it just very rarely worked, so I just kind of went, you know what, I'm done with this, and ditched it.
Yeah, I can understand that, because sometimes lyrics do just come in the moment, don't they? And unlike a guitar riff that you can sit on, play forever, like guitar riffs are vocal lines do sort of grab you in a moment and you want to roll with them a little bit more, don't you? Whereas you try and revisit them, that moment's passed a little bit. Where a guitar riff's just always going to be a good guitar riff if it's a good guitar riff.
Yeah, I guess like it was just, there was so much, and there was no way I was ever going to really go through it all, and I was just hanging on to it just for the sake of hanging on to it, like there was no real reason to keep it.
Okay. Yeah, okay, fair enough. That makes sense to me. And if you are a songwriter and lyricist, I think you should have a bit of faith in yourself that you're going to come up with something pretty cool in the future anyway. So lyrics and songs will appear. Holding on stuff from the past too much, trying to reinvent old stuff that didn't really work. Sometimes it's just have a bit of faith in yourself, being able to create more original stuff in the future. That's the way I like to think of it.
Yeah, I've never really struggled to come up with new stuff. So, hanging on to old stuff that I'm probably not going to use just seemed like a waste of time,
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So the first band I knew of yourself, actually sort of before I knew you, was Inside. Was that sort of, that was probably the bigger band that you were in before the Silencio? Like were you in a couple of high school bands and that sort of stuff as well? Or was Inside your high school band? I'm not really sure.
I played in lots of bands, but nothing that did anything really quite large. So I was in Dreamscape Measurement as well that did okay, but it was very short-lived. Inside was the one that a lot of people knew me for prior to the Silencio. But that was a very drastic lyric style in comparison to what I do now.
Yeah, I was actually having a look at some Inside stuff just today when I was just doing a bit of work on my computer, thinking, because I've seen the Silencio quite a lot, and I've, but Inside was, I probably saw you maybe once or twice, and even that's really pushing my memory. But I did think it might be, like this is about the Silencio lyrics, so we're not going to really sort of deep dive into the Inside ones, but it made me think, I wonder what the lyrics were like then compared to the lyrics now, you know? So maybe that would be worth just having a bit of a discussion there without going too deep into the inside lyrics, but yeah, you know, how do you sort of feel the heavier stuff from inside to the more, you know, acoustic-based stuff of the Silencio?
The biggest thing, I guess, like the biggest difference was that when I was in the inside, the drummer was he would basically set out with a plan for what each album was going to be about. So I kind of had something that I was limited to writing about. Like, so first album was called Hate, so the songs had to be about, you know, being in that zone. Whereas the Silencio was always my baby, and I always wanted to do something that was a bit more positive. You know, I'd sung enough about fucking hate. So I want to do something that's a little bit more positive and, yeah, uplifting.
That's probably what your dad went through when he changed the band name to Love.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, there you go. It's a bit of a juxtaposition.
Yeah, so again, we're not going to get into the inside lyrics and stuff, but yeah, obviously it's that heavy, you know, brutal music. And there is a bit of singers, songwriters who like the irony and the juxtaposition as a bit of a piss take to write cute, fun lyrics over heavy music. But in general, most heavy music is asking for, you know, brutal sort of lyrics as well. It's kind of the sort of how it works, isn't it? Okay. So, but that's also interesting too that you had a little bit of a directive of how to write lyrics from inside. But again, interesting, but let's maybe not get too deep into that because I want to get onto the Silencio stuff. The Silencio,
yeah, of course, yeah.
This Silencio started, so this is pretty much your acoustic stuff after sort of inside. You're probably where you're doing a little bit of your own acoustic stuff during inside, thinking, oh, this could be something I could do later. Or was it after inside came to an end, you're like, oh, just the time's come just to change my focus and reinvent myself? Like, sort of, how did that transition work?
No, so the Silencio has actually been kicking around for a really long time. Like, I had the Silencio even before I was in Inside.
Oh, okay.
You know, and I was in Inside for 10 years. It was just a solo thing for years, but my playing was really rhythmic. I was always a rhythm guitarist, and I always wanted to have drums. And it wasn't until sort of towards the end of Inside's career that I found a couple of guys to play with that, and it all just kind of gelled. There were a couple of different iterations of it early on with different guys that just never came to fruition. And then I found, Jared and Dylan. And Dylan originally, our guitarist, was playing drums. And we were just a three-piece. And we just banged out a double EP that was recorded before Inside finished up. And then, Inside kind of broke up, and I just poured all my focus into Silencio. And, Kurt got on board with Silencio, and the rest is history. Dylan jumped on guitar, and then we just hit the ground running. That became my major focus.
And you can sort of see that in the progression of the band, where the original music was, it's quite obvious singer-songwriter style, whereas the band progressed, and the latest singles that you've been releasing over the past couple of years, it definitely has a lot more of that band feel to it as far as sonically. Okay. So I wanted to now maybe move into some of the lyrics that you got. And you forwarded me a few songs. So just for people, this podcast is pretty new. So people listening for the first time, I do actually get sent the lyrics beforehand, and I get a chance to have a little bit of a read over them. And I give them a little bit of a perspective of what I think's going on. I'm not some genius lyric decoder. Sometimes I get it wrong. But it's kind of the fun of lyrics too, isn't it? Trying to get a bit of an interpretation of what's going on. And then we have a little bit of a chat, maybe grab a few lines that I think are really cool, but also ask the writer of the lyrics, a little bit more specifically what they were thinking about and what was going on for them when we deep dive into the lyrics. So the one we are starting with, Once and For All, and that is actually the last single and the last track of the whole 10 single album project that's got 10 film clips, 10 singles, one album, right? That's where we're at, aren't we? Terrible description.
Correct, yes. No, you nailed it.
Yeah, just stumbled my way through that. Yeah, I should have been listening to Silencio instead of Inside this afternoon. So once and for all. So this one, it's kind of obvious because there's 3 words in there that make it obvious what it's about. But I'll read out the opening line. As I stare into the abyss of that 9 to 5 design, fear and dread wash over me. Otherwise, I'd be lying. It shivers slowly up my spine, a feeling I'm not buying. So as soon as you say 9 to 5, we're talking about the grinder work, aren't we? I mean, I haven't got that one wrong, have I?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So
no, but like, yeah.
I mean, there's some really good lines in here, and I do sort of want to open it up a little bit because there's been lots of songs written about the grind, not necessarily the grinder work, but the grinder life, and good old Dolly Parton, of course, comes to mind. I'm not going to bust into a rendition of that, don't worry. But I thought what was interesting about this, I wanted to ask you, and that's what this podcast is about, as a lyricist, you write it with quite a deep feeling of dread. So the question is that your just artistic lyrical skills, or was this job actually filling you with dread? It shivers slowly up my spine, a feeling I'm not buying. If the young me could see me now, you can bet I'd be denying. So can I ask you what was that job, or it's not really like that? I think you're going to go a little bit more than that. I'll hand it over to you, Nick.
Well, yeah. So I mean, it's a bit of a combination of both. Like, so I want, like, obviously it's written, so it's pretty obvious that it's about like work life versus your personal life. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to. I guess it's written obviously, but it's still like kind of a metaphor for concentrating on things that aren't, that don't fulfill you, as opposed to the things that do make you happy, and like wasting time on things that are unimportant. And like, just, I guess, like being ashamed of wasting, because life is precious, being ashamed of wasting time on things that are trivial, But look, at the time, I'll be honest, I was working in a job where I was pretty unhappy. And I did just feel like I was clocking in and clocking out and just burning hours of my life, wasting away. The little time I had with, the people I care about.
Yeah. So, and that's, there's a lot of, again, doing a few of these now, there is the sort of obviousness of it, but there's also the broader metaphor and the broader scope that it's about. Did you, like, some of these songs were written, even though it's just getting released, 2024, you just had this song for it's a little while, they were recorded a little while ago, weren't they?
Yeah, so it's about 7 years old.
So the song's several years old, but I would like to think that you're not still working that same job, or you're still grinding away at it all.
No, I left that industry altogether. It was it wasn't good for my mental health, that's for sure.
Alrighty. So the other thing that you mentioned too, you just sort of, the greater theme of the song, what I'm really sort of getting now, how that's right, we're only on this earth for so long, and I'm not going to get into a conversation about religion and heaven and reincarnation and all that, but right here, right now, this is our life that we're living, and we've only got a finite amount of time of it. And you've written that in the chorus here. So you see, we cannot simply be. We need more, just like we dream. We cannot simply be. Take a hold of our lives once and for all, and once and for all. When you wrote that, was that the same time where you were like, screw this, I need to have a bit of change, or had you made the change, or were you, I'm sort of asking about the work because that's the obvious, but was there also a period in your life where you were like thinking, hang on, I got to practice what I preach a bit? Like, was there a bit of a change when you wrote that?
No, I wish I could say yes, but no, I held in for a while there. It's tricky because it was around the time that my wife and I were giving birth to our son, and I kind of needed to stay in that role, financially to keep us sound. So I kind of just slogged it out until something better came along, or got my shit together.
That should be something to be proud of anyway, because we can also talk about living the dream and all this and that, but what's more important, providing for your wife and son, or just living the dream and do what you want to do whenever you want to do it. So these are the things we've got to sort of decide, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. If anything, it was like written as a way to remind myself that there is more. There is something more. To all of this. And to try and focus on the bigger picture.
There's something I noted here. There's a form of therapy called solution-focused therapy, where I'm giving away a bit of the insider secrets if you ever go to solution-focused therapy. Solution-focused therapy says that people actually sort of have the answer in them. So the psychologist doesn't have the answers. We're just here to help elicit the answer out of people. People actually know the answer to their problems, but they just need it dragged out of them. So there's a thing called the miracle question that goes, if you woke up tomorrow morning and everything was just wonderful, you're just living the most perfect, best life, what would that look like? To help people envision what life could be like for them. So without getting too deep, what would be the first thing you notice, Nick, if you woke up tomorrow and life was just perfect? What would be the first thing you notice as soon as you woke up?
You know what's funny, right, is, and this is going to sound, kind of corny or whatever, but at the moment, man, my life is exactly where I want it to be. I'm really content with how things are.
Perfect. That's the best answer.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, that's what I want to hear.
It took a long time, but I got there.
My work here is done, as I say. Okay, great answer. Perfect answer. If you burn a candle long enough, you'll want to start a fire. It takes it all away from me and leaves me uninspired. If you think it hasn't got you yet, well, you're just a liar. I'd give up almost anything for it not to feel so dire. So yes, that's the theme, isn't it? Moving forward. There's a lot, actually. Now that you said that, if the young me could see me now, you can bet I'd be denying. Well, I'll tell you what, the you from 10 years ago would be pretty stoked to see you now then by the sounds of things.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I had to go through a few things in the past year to help me sort of realise, wake up and smell the roses, basically. And I'm really, really happy that happened. Because it's made me a better person now. Nice. So I want to keep the ball rolling a little bit and go on to the next song, if that's okay with you. The next one you brought up you forwarded for me was Same But Different. This is the first ever Silencio. This is the first one off the run of the album, wasn't it? Yeah, it was the first single that we released, yeah.
What's the name of the title of the album? Sorry, Nick.
It's called Foreign Frequencies.
Foreign Frequencies. And, this is about lyrics, but I also like asking people why songs and albums and bands are called what they're called. What's Foreign Frequency? What's the meaning for that?
I guess it was kind of a way to explain that we were doing something different to what we had done before. Like it's a foreign sound to how we used to sound. It's actually like the same with the title was Same But Different. Like the song was one of the first ones written for this album. And at the time we had drastically changed our sound by Dylan dropping the acoustic guitar and going to electric guitar. And so we were the same band, but we were different, so it was a bit of a double meaning behind the title of the song. I had the title before I even wrote the lyrics.
Okay. Yeah, so we're up to Same But Different. So this is kind of interesting. It's kind of funny with songs. Some songs don't actually have that many words in them. There's not really that many words in this song, but that's okay. Like there's nothing right.
Yeah.
There's nothing right or wrong. But the first verse is literally one line. Trust in your identity and let it be known that your voice is equal. Chorus, we are all the same but different. Make way for change and be more tolerant. We are all the same but different. Make way for change. So again, my interpretation, and I'm not 100% sure this is right, but it's let me just say probably more of an observation than an interpretation. As soon as you put the word difference and tolerance into the same paragraph, the mind does sort of instantly go to sort of, prejudices, racial prejudice, sexual prejudice and that sort of stuff. But it isn't about that, is it? Because the feel of the song and the way it's written, it doesn't come across that that's what the song's about. So I get the impression it's a bit more about, finding your identity, finding your individual uniqueness and sort of finding a sense of self, but also allowing other people to find that and be that. If as long as it's not hurt, do what you want, as long as it's not hurting anyone sort of thing. Am I sort of right on that track?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess 100%. Like it's just accepting yourself for who you are. Like there is no such thing as normal, So it's about embracing the things that make you different and being proud of that and not letting anyone be intolerant of that, and just understanding that other people are on their journey too. So not, while you're on your own journey yourself, not being judgmental of another person's journey.
Yeah, yes. That's, again, what I sort of felt was the feel for it. And yourself, that lyric, it's a great message, of course. Anyone wants to hear that, and it's a good show of sort of who you are as a person. But why was that something you thought was, worth putting pen and paper and recording? What was going on for you when you wrote that? And is this also a period of your life where you were sort of going through some changes and trying, sort of similar to the other song as well? Was it written around the same time where you were just thinking, I can't sort of go on like this, I need to make some changes?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole record, aside from maybe 2 songs, was all written around the same period of time. So yeah, there's like a synchronicity between, like the lyrical themes of the record as a whole. Yeah, so but it wasn't really, the song wasn't really driven towards like myself, like that particular song wasn't really driven towards myself. Okay. It was more a bit of a blanket thing, like something that I thought, a lot of people will be able to relate to this. And I wanted to have like one of those like sort of anthemic kind of songs that everyone could kind of grab a hold of. And like it was just so clear and not, I don't know, because I've got other songs that are written really poetically and kind of, a bit really metaphorical, whereas that one was a bit more straight down the line. And I wanted it to be like one of those big, that's why it's got the big whoa-oh chant in it. I wanted it to be one where you grab your mates and you sing along and everyone's, singing for the same reason,
Yeah, so...
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah. It makes absolutely sense because there's only 20 words in it. If you want a big sing-along chorus song for everyone that's easy for everyone to remember the lyrics, the less words, the better. So, yes, brilliant. Brilliant songwriting.
100%, right?
Yeah. But, that's right. Like, sometimes a lot can be said.
Honestly, the song didn't...
Go on.
It didn't need any more lyrics, like that was like, it didn't need anything else. Like the lyrics and the vocals that I put on that, because we spent a lot of time in pre-production on this record, and a lot of the songs underwent so many changes, as we progressed through the writing process. Whereas this one literally was just done, like Dylan went in and recorded the song. The next day I went and recorded the vocals, and literally my first demo take sounds identical to what the record sounds like. Like all the harmonies, everything was exactly what I wrote on that first day.
Right.
Some things just come together quickly like that,
Yeah, totally. Like Blur's like song too. But even though that doesn't mean anything, he just spat that out, and that's what it was, and it remained that way. Yeah, for sure. And the song itself has that sort of anthemic sort of songwriting quality to it as well. So the lyrics and the theme suit the music, but is obviously what you want to, what you want to have.
Thank you very much.
So this is a nice line. I think that the last line that sort of wraps it up and sort of goes by the theme, what you're singing about. Just have faith that you will be heard and let it be known. You won't settle for less. So, yeah, you might not need to explain what that means because it's kind of obvious, but to add that at the end, you won't settle for less. It's like we say in the theme of the song, strive to be yourself. No need to compromise. If this is what you want to do, if this is what you want to be, then be that. Strive for that. So, unless I'm completely wrong, that's a good line for the second verse and way to sum up the song.
Yeah, I thought so. So long as you don't hurt anybody, do what you do.
Yeah, that's always a good attitude. Do what you want as long as you're not hurting anyone. So it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I don't know how. It's maybe a little bit of a get out of jail comment, but it's still I actually agree with it. My dad used to say it a lot, so I kind of agree with it.
It's crazy that because to me it's not rocket science, but some people still fail to grab a hold of that. That everyone's just trying to live their own life. It's hopefully one of those people hear that and go, hold on a second, shouldn't be like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do spend a bit of time on some songs, but considering there's only 20 words, not much. Any closing comments on that one before we move on, or is that it's a pretty good summary, I think. But you're more than welcome to add in an extra 2 cents.
No, I think that's pretty straightforward. I'm really proud of that song and how it came together and how it all turned out. And I think it's a great message. Proud to stand behind that one.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain I got this right. That was the first song from Foreign Frequencies, right? And the one we did just before.
Yeah, well, that was the first one.
Or was that wrong? Is that right? That sounds right. Well, you'd know.
I don't know the exact order. I know the order on the record, and the order that on the record is not the order that the songs came out. It is a different order. But that Same But Different was one of the very first songs that we put down. I don't know the rest of the order of how the songs sort of came together. I'd be struggling to remember that exact order, but I know that Same But Different was one of the earliest pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on then, this one here is actually the one that I'm just going through them in the order that you sent them to me, but this is the one I was actually sort of really keen to talk to you about. Under Lock and Key. So I'll just reel off a little bit. There's good lines all the way through it. There's some more towards the end that I was sort of wanting to ask you about, but I'll open up with the opening verse. Nostalgic battles, a series of memories, as we bat our eyes at the piercing sun. Empty faces, blank ruins mark the page as we turn to pinpoint more lost me. It just burns so bright, regardless of how much we need.
More lost time.
Oh, sorry. Well, maybe that was a copy and paste error that I did. I was thinking that's actually a bit weird. I did say I had some stuff I wanted to ask you about, so that answers that question. And it does. One little copy and paste typo can change the lyrics quite a lot. So I'll read that again. Empty faces, blank ruins mark the page as we turn to pinpoint more lost time. So a little bit of that theme that we sort of that, we've only got so much time on this earth. Let's get things going. Let's not waste time doing stuff that's not important. The chorus goes, it just burns so bright, regardless of how much we need to let it go. It just burns so bright, regardless of how much we need to let it go. So I tell you what, as a psychologist, to hear it just burns so bright, regardless of how much we need to let it go, I think a lot of the people I work with could relate to that, because there's some stuff that we wish that we could just forget or not relive, yet it just burns so bright and it's just so hard to remove from our consciousness. So I will just give just a bit of 2 cents on those lyrics. So is this song sort of just, past mistakes, past regrets, that ruminating on the past, not being able to let it go, being stuck in the past? That's what I definitely get from the chorus. The verses are a bit more cryptic, but is that sort of where we are here on this song?
100%. So this is actually one of those ones where I wrote these lyrics years ago. Like it's something that was kicking around in that bag that I ditched. It was always something that I've always been a fan of. I love obvious lyrics, but I love like really metaphorical, cryptic, like poetry. Like it was something I got from reading. Like when I first started writing, it was always like everything's got to rhyme. Like everything's got to have a certain pace. And then I read some of Jim Morrison's poetry books that were released posthumously. So there was one called Wilderness and one called American Night. And I read those, and that just completely changed my perspective on writing. And once I had read those, it was like a whole world opened up to me. There were no rules, and you could just write what you were feeling you didn't have to be so direct. You could use, really cryptic metaphors to get the same point home. And so this song is the birth child of that exact thought process.
Okay, so a couple of really cool things you said there. I want to say, number one, the Jim Morrison and the Doors just do not get the retrospective love that, people talk about Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, all these classic old school bands, but the Doors are one of the most legendary retro bands. And Jim Morrison, the American poet, as you're obviously a massive, massive fan. But I just feel like I just don't see the kids getting around with the Doors shirts on anymore. I see the kids getting around the Led Zeppelin ones and the Nirvana ones and the Misfit ones, but I don't see the kids with the Doors ones, and it fucking pisses me off. So I'm so glad we've mentioned Jim Morrison and that he's a massive influence.
Huge. It's something that a lot of people don't know. There's something that a lot of people don't know about me and my writing style. Yeah.
So anyone out there, if you haven't seen it, maybe the younger gen, go watch the Doors movie with Val Kilmer. It's brilliant. We're bringing him back, Nick. We're bringing him back. You probably have to know. There's going to be some real Doors fans out there that go, "Shut up, he's never gone away." But that's just my perspective. So the other thing that I want to say after getting my little fanboy Jim Morrison out of the way, I also quite like cryptic lyrics. Sometimes they get a bit too cray-cray and it's like, what the F is going on here? But I like how the flow, not everything has to rhyme in the flow, and I like how they can work sometimes. But one of the things I want to get out of this podcast is people that do write lyrics that are a bit cryptic. Cryptic lyrics still mean something to the person who wrote them, even though they might not really be understood by people listening to them. So I want to go to the second verse with your cryptic lyrics. I want to get a bit of your thoughts on it. Cages rattled, a fear of being left behind. We turn to run towards the sun. Forgotten places, still we mark off these dates. From the calendar, no second thoughts. So we still mark off these dates from the calendar, no second thoughts. So this is what I wanted to ask you about. Fear of being left behind. Now I'm sort of talking to you in context, like you're just sitting there, the world's moving on past you while you're just stuck in a rut. Is that sort of what that means?
Yeah, again, like just not being able to let go of something, like it's just you're treading water, and yet like days are ticking over and you're just wasting time, basically. Hanging on to nostalgic battles, the opening words, like it's hanging on to stuff from the past that you cannot change, that you just need to let go of.
Yeah, yes. And so that's that's what I had highlighted. I'll go back to the second one first, that we mark off the dates from the calendar, no second thoughts. So I was sort of thinking, was there sort of a few sort of poignant moments in time that was related to, but I sort of getting the impression it was just more using the term marking off the calendar as the passing of time, or is there something a bit more specific, that some actual dates that this song was sort of referencing cryptically?
Well, everyone has, like dates that they remember, specifically because of certain things that happened in time. And yeah, there were, specific dates that I was sort of referencing for myself. But because it's something that everyone has, I wanted to make it a little bit broader rather than saying a particular date that only fucking matters to me, But yeah, but I mean, to be honest, like so much time has gone past now since that was written that I couldn't even tell you the date that I was referencing, like it's the things that, like, it is water under the bridge now.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time of writing, it was, being stuck in a place and feeling like you're treading water and wanting to like break free of that, but just finding it incredibly impossible.
Yes. Really picking up a theme here, Nick, with this sort of stuff. I mean, the psychologist in me is sort of probably a little bit more curious about that period of your life when these songs were written, and maybe some of the more specifics of what was going on. I don't want to ask you anything you don't want to answer, but it's definitely making me think. It's making me think along those lines. There was, you might not have been a bit faced, or you may be just stuck in a rut, or was that? I mean, maybe if I just put it together, I could be wrong. Totally tell me if I'm wrong. But is this sort of the same time where sort of Inside came to an end, and there was a bit of that? Because when bands come to an end, especially a band that you're super invested in that's had a bit of success, there can be that real sense of what's going on here? Or is it a bit more to it than that, or a bit of everything?
No, it was more like it's more driven towards like past relationships, if anything. Like I said to you from the beginning, I got nothing to hide, right? When I fall in love, I fall in love hard. And like there were relationships in my past where it was very difficult to get past the fact that they were over. And so, like, in years that followed after, there would be reminders and things that would come up for me that would hurt. Now, like I said, completely different place. It's not even relevant anymore to me. But at the time, it was something that was, it was in my head,
Yeah, you definitely can, especially if it takes two to tango, So if ex-partners, or when breakups happen, there's things that you hate that they do that you hate. But you're able to sort of also reflect and go, oh my God, I actually screwed that one up. Like at the time you might be all them, but it's those moments, isn't it, at the dark at night alone, where you're like, oh God, I think I really fucked that up. And that's the stuff that we can get caught on, isn't it?
I'm very aware of my shortcomings.
Was it a bit of a time heals all wounds thing, or was it, there was a couple of, what was I'm
just in it. It's been very different for a really long time now. I think that was just something that I had kicking around, and I thought it was a really, like, at the time that we were doing the record, it was something that I just felt like, people can relate to this. I think it's an important message to put out there for people to grab a hold of, and I want to get it like just out, just get rid of it. Like if I put it out there, then I'm not hanging on to something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense in the context of throwing out all your old lyrics as well, or especially if there's a lot of lyrics that were sort of breakup sort of material. That's just sort of how this sort of psychology game works. You just piece bits back, piece together. I could be wrong. You're never always right. And if I'm ever wrong, just tell me I'm wrong. But now that you tell me this, we've had this discussion, to throw out all those old lyrics, yeah, for sure. It makes perfect sense, Absolutely.
Yeah, well, they just they didn't resonate with me anymore. Not enough to hang on to them. I can write better stuff now.
Well, considering some of those lyrics of when you were in primary school, I'd hope so. There's a nice the line. Is this I don't know if it's the last maybe before the second chorus, but there's some lines here that I find quite. Well, they're nice, they're well written, but they're also maybe worth asking you about. I keep me in this prison in secrecy. I cannot let you in. I've found safety. So is that line about a new relationship or people trying to help you? I cannot let you in? Or is it about, like, I can't let that, it's about getting rid of the old memory or the old.
It's more like what I kind of discovered was that, one of my failures in my past relationships was that I was always, I didn't really love myself, and who I was. And I needed to have that before I could find someone who actually complimented me, like finding your whole self. Like you're going to have a much healthier relationship if you actually respect yourself, and take pride in who you are. And so that's what it is. It's like, I'm not letting anyone in. I found some safety in just being myself, because there was a period of time where I was just single and I was committed to just being single until I met my wife.
So there was some safety in being single.
Yeah, like just getting to know me and like what I needed from my life, And I think there's a lot of people out there that I'm sure can relate to that. But it's hard for someone to love you if you don't love yourself, So it was that was me working on that aspect.
And it's also very frustrating when you're loving someone and they don't. And you try to tell them how awesome they are, and they keep shutting you down and like, no, you fucking so lovable. Stop hating on yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Mm. And then this last, I don't know if it's again the last line, the line for the chorus though. It's another really good one that I want to ask you about. You'll never know how much I value these days. So is that line? I read that line as like, thanks to this, someone's helped me move on and now I'm in a good place and comfortable? Or is it actually, like based on what you're telling me about this song, is it about just to be able to be alone and to be able to work on yourself? Is that what's valuable?
Well, I think it's more like just you'll never know, how to move forward if you haven't gone through something. So like I value the fact that all those things have happened to me and I can look back on them. And even though, there's things that I, didn't handle well, I wouldn't change anything because it's made me the person I am now. So I really value like all those experiences because it's shaped me to become a better person now. That's the way I see it is like I value even the darkest days in my life because they've led to me becoming who I am now.
Yeah, I think you definitely also, sometimes if you're giving someone a bit of counselling when they're going through some really bad stuff, sometimes there isn't stuff you can, there's nothing you can say that's in a sense, if someone's wife leaves them, you can't go, I guarantee she'll be back because she mightn't. But, you can just reassure them and, sort of try and help them think, the passage of time, things will get better. And, to be able to look back and reflect on that, there's been dark times, but things have gotten better, and then how that's improved. You've made you stronger and better person from it. So there's some value in reminding people that even though
I feel like it's an opportunity.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like it's an opportunity to work on yourself and better yourself for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You got to learn from your mistakes as well. It can be frustrating when people don't learn from their mistakes and keep making the same mistake. But it's definitely part of life, isn't it? And growing up and that's that sort of stuff. Just burn so bright. It just burns so bright. So yeah, got a lot of lines about fire and burning, but it comes with like power. That the analogy of fire, the metaphor of fire and burning, it comes with strong emotions, doesn't it? So it adds to that emotional resolve of some of your lyrics. So, yes, I'm glad I got a chance to ask you about Under Lock and Key. So the fourth and last song we're going to have a look at, Room for No Resolve. Now, this one, look, again, it does match the theme of some of the other stuff that we've been talking about, and it definitely is kind of, I could sort of got the gist of a theme, but after talking to you, I really see the theme. And this is the bitter, angry, the bitter, angry theme emotion. You know, we go through lots of emotions. Different events can have multiple of emotions. But this is the angry, bitter emotion coming out. Maybe, I'm not sure. But let's go through it and see what you have to say, Nick. I see you walk, I hear you talk, but I will never know you. You don't even know to listen. I'm a stranger to you. We don't even understand each other or need to. We like to think that we know better. So I love that line. We don't need to understand each other or need to. It's like, no, fuck you, man. I don't even want to understand you. But the other line that comes straight after that I think's cool is that you don't say you like to think that you know better. You say we like to think that we know better. So you are taking some responsibility for the what's the word I'm trying to say? You know, the toxicity of this relationship. Because you are saying, well, yeah, you know, I also think I know better as well. But point being, I still don't give a shit what you think, even though I know that I might think that I might not be totally right. So it's got a bit of a. Am I missing it here or something? Because it seems kind of obvious to me. But as I said from the start, I don't always get this right when I analyse these lyrics.
Well, I'm happy to tell you, but if you want to keep going,
that's the end of. I wanted to hand it over to you after that.
It's funny. So when we were recording this song, I'll never forget, like Nick Carpenter, who recorded the record for us, he just found this song to be absolutely hilarious. You know, to sing something like this after Same But Different, you know, it's pretty comical. But this song is basically about, you know, that guy that cut you off in traffic this morning, or that guy that pushed in line at the supermarket, or those kids that were screaming at the shops the other day. Like, it's about I guess understanding that not everyone is going to be your cup of tea. But that's okay. You know, there is room for no resolve.
I tell you, this is actually very refreshing, you know, and it's good to have a bit of a laugh about, because there is some deep emotional stuff here that's sort of written, but sometimes it's good just to have a laugh at the trivial, menial, little crappy things that happen in life, isn't it? So it's also kind of a bit of relief to hear as well, because otherwise it would have been a very, 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 very bad, toxic, fucked up relationship. So if it's just about that old person at the counter counting out all their 5-cent pieces while you're in a hurry to, you know, because you're in the 5-minute parking zone or something.
That's exactly who this is about. Because, you know, that's just life.
It is. So this is actually perfect segue. So there's a type of therapy I do called dialectic behavior therapy, DBT, and you do it in groups mainly. And when you run a group, you don't want people talking about, you know, really heavy shit that's happening, because you don't want to trigger off the whole group. So we have rules in the group. All right, so we're going to talk about the emotion of anger, but we're not going to talk about, you know, like heavy ex-partner stuff that's maybe DV. So we're going to use examples of being stuck in traffic, you know. So we're going to work on how to manage our anger, but yes, not in a heated relationship. Just when you're stuck in traffic, I want you to use your anger management skills there, you know. I want to use your anger management skills when you're stuck in the line at the supermarket. And we teach them to use the skills in those situations as practice, like on the footy field. You know, you got to learn how to kick a ball properly before you can run out and play a professional game. So that's sort of how we frame it. So this is thank you for listening. This is the perfect psychology, lyrical analysis podcast segue episode. It's spot on.
Awesome. Oh yeah, because I think anger is a really healthy emotion. You know, like it is. It's okay to be angry. You know, so long as you don't actually take that anger out on anybody else, it's okay to be angry. You know, like there's going to be situations that arise in your day-to-day life that you're going to get pissed off about. You know, it's how you handle it after the fact that matters. But yeah, this is just. I just thought it would be funny to write something along these lines after saying all those really positive things throughout.
Is this why you put this at the end, maybe?
But it is positive. Yeah, it's the closing track. But like it's also I wouldn't say it's negative because there's room for no resolve. Like there's plenty of room for us to all be who we are without having to everyone all love each other. You know, there's always going to be people that you just don't gel with. You know, and so that's what this is. It's about not gelling with someone based on the most trivial of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I quite like the irony of this song then too, because I was reading it thinking, oh, this one's full on, this one's real bitter and toxic and so on, but it's actually quite funny, the context of it. So again, another excellent reason for this podcast to exist, where we can look at lyrics and actually really understand what they're about. So now that we know that, let me read out the chorus. I assume I loathe you. So that makes sense now too, because I was thinking that's a funny line. I assume I loathe you. Like, so you don't even know them, so you're assuming you loathe them. Makes perfect sense in context now. I assume I loathe you. You never even gave it a thought at all. We're not going anywhere because we're stuck in traffic. There's room for no resolve. So that's it. And I had in my notes question mark, does the person know you hate them? So obviously, because I was thinking it was maybe it was just like an asshole boss or something, or just some family member, then they might not even know that you hate it. But no, it's not even about that. It's just about that grandpa driver on 50 Ks up to Mount Tambourine. You're trying to get up there. Ah, nice. All in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
All in my head. So not a chance of protest from you. Hard to explain. All my disdain directed at you. Based on nothing. Call it instinctive. We all do. And like to think that we know better. So there you go. Yeah, that's gold, and it makes absolutely perfect sense. It is kind of cryptic, but it's not cryptic once you know what's going on. All right. Well, there you go, Nick. That was an excellent one to finish on. You got to finish on the funny one. It's like the Red Hot Chili Peppers finishing Blood Sugar Sex Magic with She's Red Hot. A nice kooky little funny song, but like again, not it isn't a kooky little jig song, but knowing the lyrics, it feels that way. So it's sort of how this works too. We get to the end and we sort of wrap things up a little bit and have a bit of a reflect on the themes. And we've been speaking about the themes a little bit as the conversation's gone, but there is that sense of trying to get in touch with your emotions. There's that sense of trying to work out who you are. I know you wrote a lot of these lyrics, a few years ago, and you're saying life's going good for you now, but there's definitely that sense of trying to work out who you are, but also wanting to write it like, even though you might have been struggling with some stuff and, trying to work out your place in the world, you're also on your way to working it out and trying to give people that sort of foot up and kind of take you along with them. It's the sort of the theme I get from your lyrics. You sort of feel that's sort of on point, or there's obviously more to it that you're more than welcome to expand on. But yeah, I get that theme, I get that theme from what you're writing about.
No, that's exactly right. But it's also like, I just felt like, if you're going to write a song about something and give it to the world, you want it to be something that people can grab a hold of. And I feel like that all these sorts of things that we're talking about are relevant, thoughts that I think most people would have. And I want people to connect with the music. And so I'm going to sing about stuff that I I feel like people can connect to, and even though like that's obviously you have to address your own personal stuff when you're doing something like that, but you have to do it in a way that makes it a bit more broad, and that's all I've been trying to do when I'm writing these sorts of lyrics.
Yeah, and this also leads me on though too. It's a very interesting question I'd like to ask you. It's a question I ask everyone, but for yourself, I think it's actually it's going to be interesting to hear the answer, because I ask everyone, what's the future direction of your songwriting, your lyrics, and these themes. And again, I apologize if I'm making a point of this, but you sort of said these songs were written a while ago, and there was a bit going on in your life where things went right, but then you said things are really good right now. So lyrically, where do you think that's going to, singing about what's going on for you and what you're wanting to say in your lyrics, and your life's going really good? Like where do you sort of feel lyrically your direction's moving into the future?
I feel like a lot of the stuff I've been writing, or there's still a handful of songs that I've written recently that, sort of still delve into similar topics. But overall, I feel like a lot of my writing now is more outward, like sort of commentary on other people's situations that they've addressed with me.
Oh, okay.
Like there's songs about how other people are responding to different situations in their lives. I'm trying to take myself out of it a little bit, more than I have done in the past. There's always going to be a bit of me bleeding through, and
do the people you're singing the song about know that you're singing about them and that, or is it just sort of, it's not really that specific, I suppose?
No, I mean, just as an example, right? Obviously, without you're not going to hear the song for a long time yet because we're still working on it. But I have a song that I've written for a friend of mine who's really sort of struggling with letting go of a past relationship, and the song is like, basically like I'm singing to him, trying to pick him up and help him out of the rut that he's stuck in. Like I'm trying to make it more about it, like other people than me.
Yeah, and again,
it's still relatable stuff.
And again, the theme, that you sort of following, we're sort of picking a bit of a timeline here, aren't we? I think I got it kind of right, where the stuff that you're singing about when you were struggling, you're singing about it yourself, but hoping it would be helpful for other people to come on through. And that theme still remains, where you're singing though, but rather about yourself. I mean, again, there's a few different songs, the example you gave, but it's about what you've sort of learned and how you can, what you've learned you can give to other people, and hopefully it'll be helpful. Applying and giving other people, but hopefully it'll be helpful for them. So, yeah, I can see that theme in you. Do you consider yourself a pretty altruistic person?
Yeah, I guess so.
Do I make you blush?
No, I don't. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
But it's an odd question to be asked, I suppose. But maybe it's just you being you.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. It's just what comes to me. Like there's no. I don't know. It's not like there's any sort of strategy or anything like that. It's just when I start writing, that's just how things come out.
Yeah. All righty, Nick. That pretty much wraps everything up. We covered a lot of stuff, a lot of the sort of summary. I think we also covered through the main part of the main body of the podcast. So it's been really, really interesting. I've known you for a while, Nick, but these conversations are really, really good to have with people, to find out a little bit more than what makes them tick. So I'm really appreciative of your time. I always want to give the guests a chance to just do the plug at the end, to just sort of, sell whatever you want to sell. You've got a lot of music coming out. This isn't going to be released as soon as like tomorrow or today, so a little bit of time. But By all means, anything you want to plug, anything you want to sort of throw out there, the stage is yours to wrap this up in that sense.
Well, first and foremost, if that's the case, I want to thank you for having me. You know, it really means a lot to me that you have taken an interest in my writing. You know, and I think that the whole idea of this concept for this podcast is incredible. I think it's a really, really cool idea, and I really look forward to listening to the other episodes that you record with other artists to get a bit of a look in. It may even influence my writing moving forward. But you know, it's really cool. Thank you very much for that. And if I'm going to plug something of my own, man, by the time this airs, our final single, Once and For All, will be out, which means that the record, Foreign Frequencies, will finally be available, which I'm really excited for people to hear in its entirety. It's going to be available on all the streaming platforms. But the cool thing about it is it's going to be a visual album too, in the sense that we did a video clip for every single song on this record. So, you know, you're going to be able to literally watch the entire album from start to finish, which I think is, you know, a really cool idea. So yeah, I can't wait to hear what people think once they hear, because everyone's heard bits and pieces over the last couple of years that we've been dropping this. To finally hear it as a whole, I hope people have the same love for it that we do as artists. Like, we're still so proud of this record, you know?
Yeah, so it's for everyone out there that doesn't know about the Foreign Frequencies album project. This is like the first one. Again, my timeline, I'm not 100% sure, but we're definitely looking at a 3-year process. So people listening out there, not 3 years of recording an album, but like since the first single and the first video clip was released, and 10 tracks. Was that at 5? Was it? Sorry, I'm not sure. But since the first track was released to this last one, has been singles been dripped every few months, whatever. A film clip for every song as well, and now the final one is here, and then the whole album is going to be, you'll be able to listen to it the whole way through. So I'm excited to put that playlist on YouTube on and watch them in order. And to hear the whole album too, just to listen to it as audio. But I tell you what, the sense of relief must be absolutely massive, Nick. That's a song in itself, isn't it? The writing a song about this process would be, or an album about this album.
Well, the funny thing is like it doesn't really feel like that amount of time has you know, lapsed anyway. Like we never sort of set a time period on this record, you know, for putting it out. But obviously, you know, things came into play, like COVID and stuff like that, you know, disrupted our flow. But you know, lots of things have changed in all our lives over the course of this, you know, this time, that things have just happened the way that I feel like they were supposed to happen. And where we're at now as musicians and artists is, like I said, I cannot fault. I'm really proud of the journey we've had throughout this whole record coming out. And yeah, it is a massive relief to just finally have it all in one place. Like, you know, even just for myself, like every time I've been listening to this record, I've only got one way to listen to the whole thing, and it's because it's literally on one track in our Google Drive where you can't skip songs. It's just the whole album is just one like 39-minute track, and that's the only way I could listen to the whole record, you know? It's going to be nice to have the ability to maybe skip a song. But, you know,
David Gilmour from Pink Floyd said that he, as proud as he was of, you know, Dark Side of the Moon, he just feels a little bit ripped off because he never had the opportunity to just hear it, you know, for the first time as being a fan, you know, because he just knew it so well, so intimately, because it took so long to make, and, you know, they were just so invested in the production of it. So I thought it's something that always stuck with me. Maybe there's a little bit of that for yourself, but at the same time, I could imagine how proud and relieved. And, you know, we talk about, we mentioned it before, that one single event can have many emotions. And I think this is probably what you're feeling at the moment, you know, but all good ones too, I suppose, you know.
No, like there's no negativity towards any of it, you know, like it's It's been a long process, but like I said, the work that was put in, like, it deserved to be dragged out and put out the way it was, because it really gave us an opportunity to savor it, if that makes sense, and really, like, I don't know, suck every last drop out of it. if that makes sense.
It does. It makes absolute sense. Alrighty, cool. Well, I'm really looking forward. By the time,
it took us a long time to craft.
But by the time this podcast is released, it will be there to listen. The Silencio, Foreign Frequencies. I'm really looking forward to listening to the whole thing. All right, Nick, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for your time. I'll be seeing you around, I'm sure.
No worries, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in and enjoying this episode of the Lyrical Wax podcast. As always, I like to finish this with a little bit of a call out to like, subscribe, and all the good stuff, but also for any singer-songwriters out there or music fans out there to leave a comment or reach out to me about artists they would love to see appear on this podcast. Maybe there's someone out there who writes some awesome lyrics, but you're just like, far out, I really would like to know the meaning behind that, or I swear he means this, but I'm not quite sure. So who knows, maybe I might get the answer out of them if I get to put them on the podcast and interview them and see what's going on from there. So thank you very much. Hopefully more of these to come. I'd like to think more of these to come anyway. Good stuff. See you soon.